Well, hey, welcome back to the Pastor Pod. We're glad you're with us. We're on episode 60. If you're new with us, I'm Josh with my co-host Jay Mudd, as always. And I'm excited today to have a guest with us, a good friend of mine named Pastor Steve Kleckner, incredible friend, actually a neighbor down the road. And so welcome to the podcast, Steve. We're glad you're here.
Thanks, man. It's good to be with you, Josh. And I got to work with you for a little over a year, and I miss coming into your office and having those kind of conversations we used to have.
Yeah, man.
Ooh,
Well, Jay,
what kind of conversations?
What kind of
conversations?
Well,
I'm joking. I'm
good
joking.
ones.
Maybe another podcast. Maybe.
That's right.
He just left it wide open. He's like, "Hey, I'd love to come in and have those conversations with you."
Well, I'll tell you, I've learned a lot from Steve. That's what I've always enjoyed. Every time we get together, it's always an encouraging talk, and that's going to be what we're going to do today. But Jay, you haven't had a chance to get to know Steve as much. So, Steve, for Jay's sake and for the rest of the listeners today, tell us a little bit about you. Let everybody in on a little bit of your story, your family, and kind of what God's been doing in your heart the last few years.
Yeah. So, was a pastor for 29 years in full-time ministry, different roles, and some of those I enjoyed more than other ones. You know, I tell you, man, I tell people all the time, being a youth pastor is one of the greatest gigs out there. I loved it. 15 years and just hanging out with teenagers and going to their plays and just connecting in their lives was pretty cool. I don't ever want to eat pizza again. I'll admit it. Just too much of that. But yeah, so I've been in the ministry for 29 years full-time in the church, and married to my wife, Anita, we just celebrated 32 years. I have 3 kids. All 3 of them have been married in the last 5 years, so I'm broke. And we have 2 amazing son-in-laws, and an amazing daughter-in-law, and 2 amazing grandkids. So, man, God's good. It's been a lot of fun watching our kids grow up, and growing up in the church. You know, you always wonder, and you guys are both pastors, so, and there's a lot of pastors listening to this, you wonder if your kids are they're gonna regret the church. You know, they're gonna regret that you gave too much of your life to the church and not enough to them, and they're gonna walk away from Jesus. And somehow, by the grace of God, man, my kids all love Jesus and still involved in church. So I'm very, very grateful.
Yeah, I can just say from what you just shared me, you're a special person, especially someone who says they think youth ministry was the best time of their ministry. I've done my share of youth ministry, and I know Josh has as well. And I don't consider it my best. No, I'm joking. It really takes a special person to do youth ministry. And so, yeah, not my thing. So thanks for sharing that with us, and specifically the world that is listening in on this podcast. And so, Josh, you know, there's tons of people who are listening in right now at 3:30 a.m. when this drops each and every week. And so, do me a favor real quick. And again, we're gonna be talking about the need for rest and unplugging.
Right.
But do us a favor and share a little bit about what you're doing now. You were in ministry for 29 years. What are you doing now? Give us a little bit of an update of what that looks like, what you're doing now, because I think that really ties into really our conversation today.
Right. So what I'm doing right now full time is we've developed a retreat center out in Arcadia, Florida, and it's just a beautiful setting, just a beautiful lodge and property, and a couple thousand acres surrounding us. And you can kind of get lost a little bit, kind of rest a little bit, unplug from the craziness of the world that we all have to deal with. Whether you're a pastor or not, this world's crazy right now. So that's what I've been doing for the last almost 2 years. The first year, we just really tried to figure out where we were going in the last year, 2022, we've kind of started to, get our foundation and get things in place and bring in groups. And it's been a lot of fun. It's been a challenge. I'll be honest. I'm an optimist, and I probably thought it was going to be easier than it is, if I had to be completely honest. And I'd rather be honest anyway. But it's been a lot of fun, a lot of challenges. God stretched me. somewhere in here, he's teaching me a whole lot. I'm a slow learner, so that never helps me. And we just really want to have a place where people can get away, men's groups, women's groups, really have a heart for pastors, especially being a pastor for 29 years, being a lead pastor for some of those years, and just trying to get them out here so they can rest, relax, kind of recharge the batteries a little bit, and just enjoy being with other, especially lead pastors, enjoy being with other lead pastors where they can be a little more open and honest and talk about some of the good stuff, but also some of the struggles and issues they're dealing with. So that's kind of the gist of it.
That's good. I mean, we talked, I don't know, was that a couple weeks ago, and just sharing your heart behind it. And, you know, Steve, you've had so much impact in our church here at the Bridge, a part of our church, on our teaching team, and just has made such a big investment in this area. You know, you've been through some ups and downs. I mean, I've been through my fair share, and the need for pastors, and even I would speak to anyone that's serving Jesus, right? Whether you're a pastor or not. There are seasons where you hit a wall, where you go through difficulty, you go through challenge, you go through, you know, you're pouring out, and I know that's something that's so dear to your heart because you've been through it, you felt it, and you want to see leaders really replenished and built up so that we can stay focused and stay committed and faithful to what God has called us to do. So tell us a little bit more about your heart of, you know, beyond the lodge and all the facilities and all that, which is it's a great place. I love every time I get to go out there. What do you envision? What do you hope to see happen through this refuge retreat center for pastors and leaders?
So I think, Josh, I would start with my story. So about 2 years, a little over 2 years ago, I just come off of a really busy season. I kind of stepped in as the lead pastor in the interim at the Bridge for about 18 months. And you had just come on board, which was a godsend to us. And so for anybody out there who's going, man, you left because Josh came in, that is absolutely the furthest thing from the truth. I loved working with you, and I was blessed to have a year with you. I wish I could have had more. But I'd gone through a tough season, really trying to lead as well as I could, and it just drained me. 18 months of preaching a lot, and then still dealing with, you know, the church and the elders and all the things the church goes through. And I didn't take the breaks I needed to take, just straight honest. And so one day I was in my office, and I had a panic attack. I didn't know what it was. I'd never had one before, so obviously I had no clue what to expect. And just, I couldn't focus, I couldn't process. I was shaking, I was crying. I felt like a baby, you know, like I just didn't know what to do. Like I wanted to curl up in a ball and go hide under the covers in the corner somewhere. And man. So my wife, I tried to call my wife, but I couldn't really explain to her what was going on. And but she was a nurse, and so she reached out to you. And I remember you coming to my office that day and just being honest and saying, hey man, are you okay? And I said no. And so you know, you got me some help, and I got in to see a counselor the next day, and I thought, okay, I'm healed, right? You tell your story to the counselor and you let everything out and you walk away, and I'm like, all right, you know, as a pastor, we're the ones helping people, right? And I walked away, and 5 days later I had another one. And my counselor said, well, you've got a couple of choices. You can put your feet in the sand, and you'll be probably out of ministry in 6 months if it takes you that long. Number two, you can have a nervous breakdown and probably never come back the same, or you can take a sabbatical. And thank God I was able to choose option 3. And so I took a 30-day sabbatical. The Bridge was great about it. They supported me in it. You did, Josh, our elders. And just really, I just unplugged for about 30 days of my life. And it was, at that point, I'd been in full-time ministry as a pastor, youth pastor, teaching pastor, worship pastor. I kind of did it all, janitor pastor. You know,
You got all the
parking attendant pastor. So about 27 years, and the longest I had ever had off was I never had 2 Sundays in a row off. So you preach on a Sunday, you leave, you're gone the next weekend, and then you're back before that second weekend. That's just, so I'd never really had 2 full weeks off, 2 full Sundays off. And part of that's my own fault. Part of that's just churches expecting things and my own expectations. So I got away for 30 days. And that's when God just really started working on me and reminding me that I needed to take healthy breaks. And I needed to sit at his feet. I needed to quit being a human doing and start being a human being and just be and not do. And so I came back after that 30 days, and God had spoken some things to me on that retreat and on that sabbatical. And one of them was that I've got something new for you and it's coming. And so I literally got off of that sabbatical, and I've been a chaplain for a company for about 10 years at that point. And I got a call from them when I got back from my sabbatical, and they said, "Hey, we want to talk to you about a retreat center." And the whole time I was on that sabbatical, he was whispering, "I've got something. Just keep sitting with me. Just keep sitting with me." And that was a healing time for me. And I got back, and we got that call, and we interviewed, and just sat down with the owners, and my wife and I, Anita and I, and we prayed about it for about 2 months before we felt like God had just said, "Okay, this is what I've been trying to prepare you for." And so in January of 2021, resigned full-time at the Bridge and started this. So that is where I'm coming from as my perspective, from my narrative, being in ministry that long and pushing too hard, putting the pedal on the floor and forgetting where the brake is sometimes. So, my heart for pastors is, I know, and you guys know, because you're both pastors, you're both in full-time ministry, and I am too, just in a different role at this point. And, one of the things we all realize is that Sunday comes every 7 days, and it comes really fast, steamrolling, right? So you got to prepare a sermon, then you got to meet with your team, and you got to meet with your elders, and you got to meet with people who are hurting, and you got to go to the hospital, and you're dealing with people who are having babies and new life, and you're dealing with people who are losing somebody in their life. And, you just start to carry all this stuff. And, one of the things that my counselor was phenomenal. I went to 3 months of counseling. And the Bridge was great about helping me with that. I just have to brag on the Bridge. I love the Bridge Church. I'm not getting paid to say that. I'm just saying it because that's what I really love. And 2 of my kids are involved there, and my other daughter is involved at another church in town with her husband, who's on staff at that church. And, just my counselor was telling me, she was talking to me about a lot of different things. And one of the things she just reminded me was that I didn't have to carry everything. And the question she really got me with, and I'm just throw it out there for you guys, for any other pastor. She said, "Steve, when you get done meeting with somebody and it's heavy, maybe it's a guy that says, 'Hey, Steve, I want to meet with you,' and he's just got a porn addiction that's just killing his marriage. Or it's a couple that comes in and there's been some infidelity, or whatever that issue is, whatever those heavy issues are." She said, "When you walk away from that, what do you do?" And I said, "Well, for the next couple of hours, I it's just so heavy. I really just sometimes just sit in my office and kind of cry." And she said, "Let me try something new." She said, "When you walk them to the front door of the office, or you walk out of the restaurant, or whatever the case may be," she said, "What if as soon as you get away from them, you walk away from them, you say, 'Jesus, I can't carry this,' and you need to carry it." And man, that was like a freeing moment for me. Part of that was probably pride. As a pastor, we want to help everybody. My heart is people. It still is people. So there was that that breaking down of pride in my life. And at the same time, I think there was more than pride. It was just, I didn't know how to offload that stuff. I had never really figured out how to listen to somebody talk about the dirty, ugly stuff in their lives without somehow carrying it with me. And so that was a freeing moment. And I don't know how many pastors are out there that are dealing with that, have that same type of personality. You know, some pastors can process through that easier because of our different personalities. But I want to make Refuge Retreat, we want it to be a place where pastors can come and, man, they can literally just go, I'm turning it all off. I'm pulling the plug. I'm disconnecting. I'm shutting down the power. I'm shutting down the computer. I'm shutting down the phone and all that kind of stuff. And I'm going to enjoy God's creation and God's presence. I'm going to sit at his feet. I'm going to take a line and throw it in and go catch some bass, or I'm going to get up in a tree stand that we have all over our property, and I'm going to wait till a big old hog walks by and whack them. I'm going to go out deep sea fishing, you know, and just those things that we can get out into God's creation. And I can't remember where I read it, but recently I was reading, John Eldridge, I believe, said it, and he was talking about how when you get out in the creation, in God's creation, you can't help but feel God's presence. And so I just want this place to be that kind of place for pastors who are hurting and broken, and maybe they don't have anybody to talk to. Maybe they don't know how to offload stuff. Maybe they just, maybe they're so overwhelmed. It's just, they can't keep their nose above water, and they feel like they're ready to walk away. And we just want to pour into them and love on them. And not only that, but when they leave, to be able to follow up and say, you know, hey, we're here for you. We're praying for you. You've got my number. You've got our team's number. What can we do to help you? So that's really my heart. I know that was a long way of wrapping around. But I wanted you guys to hear that, and hopefully your audience to hear that. That's it. That's what we're about. That's what we want to be about.
You know, we talk to we've had the honor to talk to a lot of different people, and there's the same recurring theme that we hear often on the podcast, and that is that pastors don't know how to unplug and retreat. For many of the reasons which you described on, just a minute ago, you just described, where we feel like we have to carry everything, we're busy, we don't take more than, I got to thinking, just as a unique circumstance, I just did that for the very first time, where I was able to take 2 weeks off, like two complete weeks off, right? But that doesn't happen often. I've been in ministry for a long time, and I don't remember a time where I've done that. Whether it be the church just has it in there to where you can't, I know churches that have it actually written in their policy, you can't miss 2 Sundays in a row. And so it happens that way, or whatever it may be, but just this idea of being able to unplug and to retreat. And so from your personal experience, this firsthand of what a breakdown looks like, feels like. You've been through it firsthand. And I think no one can really argue with that. And I'm grateful you're willing to be transparent and share that on the podcast. And what I'm willing to bet is that when you're listening to this, many people, especially in ministry, since that's who we're geared towards and targeting, probably can resonate with that concept of like, okay, yeah, I don't know what it's like to retreat, or I carry around a lot of other people's stuff, because by nature, we're shepherds. We like to care for people. We like to love people. By nature, that's who we are. This is God's call in our life. We're nobody's arguing with that. But who's shepherding the shepherd? Who's taking care of those who are leading the pack? And so let me if you could go back to your own personal story. Were there and hindsight, looking back on it, were there indications in your life, were there indicators that you can now look back on and go, man, I didn't see that, I didn't see it, but these are the indicators that led to that panic attack in your office? Were there things that you can now look back on and go, yep, you could see it coming now if it was to happen again because of these indicators? What are some of those indicators? It might be helpful for us to identify some of those indicators, especially for some of those listening today. Maybe they're thinking, well, I wonder if I'm heading down that road. Well, maybe there's some indicators that you can identify that you came across that could help them.
Yeah, Jay, that's really good. So a couple of them. The first one is, when we're going to see somebody, or maybe we're running to the hospital, or maybe we're going to have lunch with somebody, or whatever that case is. Something inside of us, hopefully there's an excitement, there's there's a, okay, you know, God, I'm walking with you on this. I can't wait to get there. And I can't wait to hear, you know, the story and how you're going to work in all this and that kind of thing. And I usually had that, but during this season, before I had these panic attacks, what was happening was, because I had given out so much emotional energy, I was starting to, on the way to these things, I was starting to feel anxious. I was starting to feel overwhelmed. And something inside of me was going, Steve, you need to cancel this. Steve, you need to retreat from this. You don't need to do it. And I think that could be part of, you know, as a pastor, where you have this shepherd heart, like you said, you want to love people, and maybe a little of that pride mixed in there too. So I don't want to, you know, to be flippant about that as a male, you know, it's just something sometimes we can struggle with. But I pushed through a lot of those yield signs, and my counselor was, you know, really helped me understand that. So in other words, emotionally, I had nothing left in my tank to give this person that I was going to have coffee with. I had nothing left in my tank to give this person I was going to have lunch with, or these couple of guys that needed to talk to me about whatever, or this couple that needed me, or the counseling I was doing, or, and what happened was, as I kept pushing through and pushing through and pushing through, it became, it came to the point where I finally pushed too far, and I had nothing left but fumes. And then I didn't have any fumes left. And so that's where emotionally my tank was so low. I just could not, I couldn't function. And so I had the yield signs, and there was, I mean, honestly, there were moments where I'd be driving to a meeting, and something inside, I'm Holy Spirit would say, Steve, you don't have anything to give today. And I'd say, you know what, I can do this. I can do this. I can push through this. And I did that for a season, and I paid the cost. I paid the price for that. So they're yield signs. The Holy Spirit gives us yield signs, right? I wish he'd have just hit me with a 2x4 early on and made, you know, but he decided not to do that. And it just took a while for the 2x4 to hit me.
So I was reading the book, you know, I know you love Carey Nieuwhof like I do. And I was reading At Your Best has been a book I've been reading. I think I'm over halfway done, but I read it slow because I have to keep kind of processing, like, okay, I need to work on that, you know? And a lot of it has to do with, like, not just the reality of pastoral burnout and the stress and the pressure. And then you count in just the last 3 years with the COVID, and then, you know, just for us in this region dealing with hurricane relief, and, you know, just, it seems like there's always some literal storm around the corner that we're facing, and then the division in the world. But when it comes down to it, what have you learned? Because, and I say this with the caveat, Carey's whole premise is, it's not just the sabbatical, it's not just the vacation that you hope you'll get to. If I can just get to that, then I'll work all this out.
Right.
And then when I get off a vacation, that I'll have a little bit more energy to then push to the next time off or retreat or whatever. And those are vital. And I think if you're listening, go ahead and plan out your 2023 time off. Go ahead and put it on the calendar. You know, don't wait till everything fills in. But what have you learned since then, Steve, about building maybe the healthier rhythms along with the retreats, along with those times to get away, that has helped you build that healthier lifestyle so you don't run like 100 miles an hour every day, and you're able to kind of maintain a healthier pace? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. I think Carey said something about, I love Carey Nieuwhof. I think that's how you pronounce it. I love listening to his podcast. I heard him say something about the sabbatical isn't going to help you if you're doing the wrong thing on the sabbatical, something along those lines. Right.
Yeah, sure.
So yeah, you know, if you're not doing the right thing, it's not going to make any difference. So I'll tell you what's really helped me. John Eldredge, I've read a couple of his books, and I also read a book by Wayne Cordero called Leading on Empty. And he really walked through some of this stuff that really helped me understand some things. But John Eldredge talked about doing a pause. And so he's got a pause app, and I've really been using that a lot lately. And so every day at 10 a.m. and every day at 2 p.m., I get this little pause. It says, you know, it's time for your morning pause. It's time for your afternoon pause. And you can pause for a minute or 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. And so you have options on how you want to do that. And so what I've learned is I can run pretty fast for a few hours. As long as when I hit that pause, I actually can step back for those 5 to 10 minutes and just sit there with God and allow him just to kind of refuel me and refresh me and kind of refocus me sometimes. And so that's one of the things I've learned. It's really, I would say it's one of the biggest things that's helped me since I went through that time, is getting into that pause app. And I tell you, I feel it when I don't use it. You know, your tongue gets hanging out by the end of the day. And when I do use it, I feel like I'm like, okay, I'm getting away from everything. I'm shutting everything down for 5 to 10 minutes, maybe sometimes even only 3 minutes. But it's just being intentional about not running 100 miles an hour, 10 hours, 12 hours a day. So that's helped me tremendously.
That's good. I'll have to I'm gonna look that one up. That's good stuff.
That is good.
Yeah.
That is good. So again, it's not hard to make the connection between your experience, the retreat, why you're passionate about this, why it's necessary. So let's talk a little bit more about the retreat. I know we talked briefly about it at the early on at the podcast. Tell us a little bit more about you know, pastors realizing this, and again, how it kind of works. You said able to get away with other lead pastors. Are there certain retreats that you organize, or is this something a solo pastor can come do by himself, or just bring some clarity to that? Because again, we like to also provide resources for those that are listening that say, hey, yeah, this could be a good resource. So tell us a little bit more about the retreat, how it's set up, how you guys run things, how it's organized, how it does benefit, how it can benefit pastors.
Right. So the retreat is set up. So we have 2 buildings at the retreat center. Just to give you a quick thumbnail of it. We have six rooms, 6.5 bathrooms. So what we do is we try to in 2023 we've got 3 lead pastor retreats planned, and so one of those lead pastor retreats is a hog hunting retreat. We've got several thousand acres. We can do that. The other one is a freshwater fishing retreat where we can take them to some of the lakes around here. There's so many great lakes in this area of Florida. And then we have another retreat that is a lead pastor's retreat that we take them out deep sea fishing. And so we do it. We only allow 6 lead pastors at a time to come in, and we're intentionally trying to keep those small because we realize that some lead pastors need a safe place to unload and offload some things, but they're probably not going to feel comfortable doing that in the presence of 20 other people. That's just reality. So the setup looks like this. They come in Monday afternoon. Again, you're coming off of a Sunday, Sunday morning, maybe Sunday evening, depending on what kind of church you're involved in at this point. You can get up Monday morning, enjoy some time maybe with your wife, your kids, whatever the case may be. Get over here, or you jump on a plane Monday morning to get here, whatever it looks like. And we start Monday afternoon, just hanging out. We have dinner Monday night. And then, depending on which retreat you pick, Tuesday morning, we start leaning into those things. And if you don't want to get up that morning and go, it's a hog hunting retreat, you don't want to get up and go out and sit in a stand, it's okay. You can sleep in. We're not gonna kick you out of bed and make you go. But we just try to offer things that will get pastors to, things they enjoy. So that way they can choose. Some people like deep sea fishing. Some people would rather go freshwater fishing. So we kind of made those 3 different retreats. So guys could say, lead pastor could say, I really enjoy that. That would be something that would refresh me. And I feel like I could connect to God and just relax in that atmosphere. And so they can sign up for that one. So that's kind of how we set them up. So they go Monday through Thursday morning after breakfast, and then they can get back to wherever they need to go, whether they need to hop a plane and get home, or they need to drive an hour or 2 to get home, whatever the case may be. Now I'll tell you one of the things that God has been reminding me of is when pastors get away, if they have to preach 7 days from they get here on a Monday and they have to preach in 6 days on Sunday, it's probably not going to be the most relaxing away time for them. And I would encourage any pastor listening to this that says, listen, I would love to do that. If you want to do that, we want to pour into you for 3 or 4 days. But if you have a sermon on your brain for the next Sunday, it's just going to be a harder time for you to unwind. And that's just reality. For 29 years being in it, Josh, you've been in it, Jay, you've been in it. Just try to get somebody else to preach that Sunday so that when you get here on a Monday, The only thing the only decision you're going to have to make is, do I want seconds or thirds on food? That's it. That's your decision. That's the only decision we want a pastor to have to make. We really do. So we really want to pour into them, love on them, and just give them an opportunity to talk about some things. They could be good things, they could be struggles, they could be whatever. So
awesome.
I'm willing to share my story too. I mean, I'm a pretty open book. I'm at the point in my life where I'm like, you know what, whatever. I'm not perfect. I don't care. And I've hit the bottom, and here's where I'm at. So here's what God's done, and praise God, he pulled me out of that.
So that's awesome. Well, if you guys haven't gone to his website, refugeretreat.com, there's actually the 3 retreats you just mentioned. We had talked about this, I don't know, was it 3 weeks ago?
Yeah.
Time is running together a little bit because of Thanksgiving, but
yes,
they look like a lot of fun. I've been looking at it myself, trying to pray through about, when can I go and be a part of this, and then invite other pastors to come along. But I've been out there. It's such a cool place. We went deer hunting, was that 2 years ago, maybe a year and a half ago?
Yep.
With my brother Jeff, and we drove around. It's just a cool place. Like, if it's tucked away. If you've never been in that area of Florida, it's rural. I mean, you're out there, and so there's just nothing around. It's very quiet, relaxing, and but I like that you're trying to really target these smaller groups to kind of really get real and find support. So, and just have fun together too, not sit around and do, have meetings about ministry. We kind of need to break that and get our minds off of it. So that's good stuff. That's awesome.
Yeah. And Josh and Jay, I think the other thing I love about only having 6 lead pastors out here is that my prayer, my heart is that God will allow the right connections to happen, so that when they walk away and they go back to their church, they're not going back by themselves. They've got somebody that they connected with on that retreat that is going to be in their corner, and that it's going to have their back and have their 6. And man, I just think that's so essential for us as pastors, that we know that there's somebody out there praying for us. And man, they're there for us. Sometimes we feel like we're in a silo. It's just us in the world. And sometimes that may be true. But man, that's just not the way to be healthy in ministry. It's just not the way to be healthy. So I want to throw something in on Jay here, because earlier we were talking about youth ministry and stuff. One of the things that I want to do this fall, or the fall of 2023, is I want to have a youth pastor retreat out here. Because here's what I believe. I've been a lead pastor. I've been a youth pastor. I believe that lead pastors need to talk to other lead pastors about stuff. I believe that lead pastors need to talk about their youth pastors to other lead pastors. And I believe that youth pastors need to talk about their lead pastors to other youth pastors. That's right. So I hope that God will allow me that opportunity, because I feel like I can have some perspective on both sides of that. Being a lead pastor with a full-time youth pastor, that I worked with, and then being a full-time youth pastor with a lead pastor over me. So I think it would be fun to do that and bring those guys out. We have an 18-hole disc golf course. Those guys, I'm sure, would eat that thing up. And sand volleyball and big buggy, swamp buggy. We can drive around on 3,000 acres and see a lot of animals and have a lot of fun. So just want to let you know that's not on our website yet, but that's coming. That is something that's just, I can't let go of. It's just a dream God stuck in my heart, man.
That's awesome.
Well, it sounds like you're the right man for the job, and he's got you in the right spot at the right time.
I appreciate that.
And it's encouraging. So we'll do our very best to drop your contact information, at least the website and all that, in the show notes, to where if you're listening to this and you're going, hey, what was that website? How do I get involved? Just go over the show notes. You can head over to thepastorpod.com and you can check that out there. You can reach out to us, thepastorpod@gmail.com, and you can get a hold of us that way, and we can get you in contact with Steve here at the Retreat Center. And so, listen, this has been encouraging. Josh, any final thoughts? Any final questions for Steve?
Steve, I just want to hear any final thoughts you have, because I count you as a dear friend. And if you don't know Steve and you're listening to the podcast, Steve's genuine, truly a great friend. And when we moved here during the COVID shutdown, meeting the church online and all that crazy, him, his family, so many of the people that they're connected to here were just so so incredibly encouraging. And that's what I would just say about Steve. He is an encourager. He's the type of guy that comes alongside people and speaks life into them. And so, Steve, we just want you to know that. I appreciate your
Thanks, man.
investment in me. And I do want to encourage you, if you're a pastor leader and you're interested in connecting or planning an event, bringing a group out. I mean, this is an incredible place. Can't think of a better person to partner with, to see that retreat center filled up throughout the year, seeing life change, even more so this next year. I know that's kind of one of your heart's desires, to see that just continue to grow and build and that sort of thing. But what final thoughts do you have for us here at the Pastor Pod? Anything that you feel like we might have left out?
I just think as pastors, just be willing to sit with God and ask him if this is something for you, if you need this. And sometimes we know we need something, but we're a little gun shy on actually pulling the trigger and getting away. And I think just a good reminder for all of us that our church isn't dependent on us. The church is not dependent on us. Jesus said, I'm going to build the church, not Steve or Josh or Jay or any other pastor out there. And to get away and get healthy is actually one of the greatest blessings for you, your family, and the church family. To be able to just unwind and just kind of refresh and refuel a little bit. And it just allows all of us, when we do that, to come back to the congregation, our people, the people we shepherd. I love what Jay said, that we are really shepherds, and just shepherd them even better, because we're shepherding out of the overflow instead of the fumes. You can't shepherd well with just fumes. I tried it. It didn't work well. But you can shepherd well when you have the overflow of the Holy Spirit and just that healthiness, physically, spiritually, and emotionally. You can shepherd really well. And I think that's what God really wants for us, for all of us as shepherds. I think that's his goal.
That's awesome.
Well, all right. Well, again, we'll drop all of Steve's information as far as the retreat center goes. If you want to connect with Steve personally, we can get you connected with him. You can email us at thepastorpod@gmail.com. Steve, thanks so much again for being with us, sharing your story, sharing about what God's doing and how God's working in and through you now. And from Steve, Josh, and myself here at the Pastor Pod, we hope you have a great weekend and hope to see you back next week.